Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Welcome. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. A massive prisoner exchange between the U.S. and Russia involving 24 prisoners, including a Canadian, took place. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has been door-knocking across the country, getting some valuable advice from many, including young Canadians. And free spuds for everyone. The Lethbridge Food Bank is hosting a Free Potato Friday. We have the details.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Turkish officials have confirmed that Canadian-born U.S. resident Poilievre and Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich have been freed in a prisoner security swap between the United States and Russia. They're among 24 people who were released on Thursday. Gershkovich was sentenced to 16 years in prison last month following a secret 3-day trial. He was detained since March of 2023 on charges of spying, while Whelan was serving a 16-year prison sentence for espionage charges that both he and the U.S. denied.
This was part of an enormous prisoner swap that involved Russia, the United States, and other countries. We're still learning more details about all the other parties who were involved, but this is believed to be the biggest prisoner exchange in post-Soviet history. Evan Gershkovich is a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. He was arrested in 2023 on espionage charges that the Wall Street Journal and the United States government say are entirely fabricated and bogus. Paul Whelan is a corporate security executive from Michigan. He was detained in Russia when he arrived there for a wedding in 2018. He was charged and convicted of espionage charges that the United States government also says are totally fraudulent. Whelan has been serving a very lengthy prison sentence. Now, there have been momentum and signs that a deal was in the works because Gershkovich's trial was sped up. He was recently convicted and sentenced to prison. For people who were watching it, that was considered a real indication that something was afoot, given that such trials normally can take a long time. But the conviction came quickly and the sentence was imposed, and so there began to be immediate speculation in the public that something was afoot.
RCMP say one person died after extreme wind caused a tent to collapse at a Buddhist monastery in Edmonton. The collapse late Wednesday also injured dozens of others at the Westlock Meditation Center. Police say there were as many as 100 people in and around the tent at the time. They say many were also seriously injured, along with 50 who suffered minor injuries, including bumps, bruises, and broken bones. 2 Lethbridge men were arrested for allegedly trying to sell a stolen vehicle online last week. Police say it was a 2021 Mazda CX-5. The suspects, aged 19 and 21, are facing multiple charges, including trafficking stolen property. They appeared in court on Thursday. Members of the Edmonton Police Service were made aware of the alleged crime on July 22nd. Police say when purchasing a used vehicle, to always verify the vehicle identification number online to determine if the vehicle is in fact stolen. More than 50 people showed up at a rally today in Lethbridge fighting for improved working conditions. Curtis Jackson, Vice President of the Alberta Union of Provincial Employees, says members of the United Nurses of Alberta and Canadian Union of Public Employees Alberta also showed up to support the rally. Jackson explains what their demands are.
Today, we're here at St. Michael's Health Centre, representing our members in Local 40, rallying because they are facing increasing disrespect, both at the bargaining table as well as on the worksite. Multiple OH&S issues have risen at this worksite, including elevators being broken for a long amount of time without being repaired, aggression to our workers on the worksite that is going unaddressed, and general unwillingness to talk to our members at the bargaining table by the employer. We are asking for raises that match the cost of living to ensure that our members still have the same disposable income that they had before.
We know that there's a crisis in healthcare, and that we want to make sure that the people who provide that healthcare, the people who support the people in these facilities, are supported themselves and are able to do their job. And this government needs to hear loud and clear that it's no longer a wage crisis, it's a wage catastrophe in this province, and we are going to fight to maintain good quality public health care and fight for the people who provide it. And we can achieve a fair contract with fair wages that support people and support the people that they're taking care of in healthcare. And the government keeps coming back with insulting offers. They're in the 1% to 2% range. Their mandate is absolutely ridiculous.
Now, Bridge City News also reached out to the Office of Jobs Minister Matt Jones, but has yet to hear back. Well, heat warning from Environment Canada continued for Lethbridge today. Jeanette Rocher is now with a quick peek at the forecast. Jeanette, it was hot again today, but no record was broken?
Yeah, no record today, Hal. To break a record, we would actually have to be just a little bit warmer. 35.8 degrees was the record that was set back in 2000. Today we were sitting at 34 degrees. And guess what? Tomorrow, not much relief in sight either, as we're still under that heat warning for the next couple of days. High of 33 degrees with mainly sunny skies. We could also see winds from the north gusting up to 40 kilometers per hour. And then I'll be back later in the show to tell you how that long weekend is looking. Hal?
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Jeanette. A man who was camping along the Chilcotin River in central British Columbia woke up to the sound of a landslide. Now, he managed to get away while the ground beneath him was moving. Deborah Bortolucci with the Central Caribou Search and Rescue says it was a miracle that he was not caught in the middle of that slide that consumed his camp and rafting gear.
So from our understanding, this individual was rafting the river with his dog. He had set up camp for the night when at about midnight, we think, he heard some noise. And so he got up and started running away from the slide area. He then yelled to his dog to start running as well, too. From there, he sustained stable injuries during his run away from the slide. And then this morning, bystanders spotted him and called for help. He said that he yelled to his pup to start running when he did, and so we hope that the pup is just scared away. He was running away from it, and that's when the injury sustained.
There's some good news on the wildfire front here in Alberta. Little Red River Cree Nation and Municipal District of Opportunity Number 17 have announced re-entry dates of August 1st and 5th of when residents are able to return home. As for Jasper and Jasper National Park, the evacuation order remains in effect. And speaking of Jasper, officials with the Red Cross say they are providing $750 in one-time financial assistance per household for the town residents. The Municipal District of Bighorn also lifted road closures for Highway 40 and the Harold Creek Road. Emergency officials say there's still 114 active wildfires burning here in Alberta, with 20 as classified as being out of control. Public Safety Minister Mike Ellis had a very special message for campers who were forced to abandon their RVs left behind at Jasper National Park.
I understand many people were forced to leave their campers and their trailers in the national park. A plan will be in place within the next 24 to 48 hours for these people. Parks Canada and the municipality of Jasper are working to get more information out as soon as possible. Teams also continue to plan for taking evacuees through Jasper National Park from Valemont to Hinton. Reuniting people with their friends and family is absolutely a priority.
The Alberta government says Canada is having some serious productivity challenges. Our province's Finance Minister Nate Horner says to address the issue, the province is hosting a two-day summit in Calgary, October 16th and 17th. Invites to attend will be sent to all of our province's finance ministers, along with Federal Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland. Horner says Canada's productivity level has fallen behind many countries, putting a strain on investment, wages, and affordability.
Productivity is about how efficiently and effectively a country's economy is producing goods and services. And it's the key determinant of wages, costs, and other components of increasing standards of living, which is why I'm very proud the Government of Alberta is providing support to this event. I'm increasingly concerned that the ability to meet these priorities is being eroded by Canada's lagging productivity and a lack of actions directed towards sustained long-term prosperity. Canadian productivity has fallen behind competitor nations in recent decades, and the trend is now worsening. Several prominent economists and policymakers have been sounding the alarm, including Carolyn Rogers, the Bank of Canada's own Senior Deputy Governor, who first sounded the alarm, or broke the glass, as she puts it, and it has now been taken up by everyone from the Governor of the Bank of Canada to journalists, academics, and businesses across Canada.
Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has been going coast to coast to coast, knocking on doors and asking Canadians what some of their biggest concerns are. He's also asking for advice from some of our young people.
Good. Any advice for me?
Don't lose.
Don't lose. That's good advice. I'm going to follow that advice.
I'm going to get 18-years to vote. Yes, you got to get us to vote because we're not, we don't know a lot, and no information really gets given to us.
But the young people can't be happy with life these days. They have no hope of getting a home. Everything costs more. You can't afford university, food. You know, it's a tough time to be a young person. It's miserable after 9 years of Trudeau. And all the debt he's putting on your back, your generation's going to inherit that. So that's why we need a common sense plan to build the homes, axe the tax, and make it possible for you to have the same opportunity your parents did.
Yeah.
Prostate cancer is one of the most commonly diagnosed cancers among men. Adam Kennard, Chair of Prostate Cancer Research at the University of Calgary, talks about the most effective action that should be taken as part of the treatment for those who've been diagnosed with the disease.
First-line treatment options for prostate cancer are to have your prostate be removed or to have radiation therapy. If you have low-risk prostate cancer, then many men will do what's called active surveillance. And that's where you don't have a treatment, but you are watched and you are monitored to make sure that if that cancer were to become more aggressive, go from a low-risk cancer to an intermediate risk or high risk, then we could treat you. There are new ways of treating prostate cancer, of localized prostate cancer, and those are called focal therapies. And that is where you treat just part of the prostate, not the entire prostate, but the part of the prostate with the cancer in it, and you leave the other part of the prostate alone. And the goal of that is to try to achieve cure while sparing sexual function and urinary continence.
According to Stats Canada, prostate cancer is still a leading cause of cancer deaths among many Canadian men. The data says chances of survival are a lot higher if diagnosed in the early stages of the disease. New mortgage rules from the federal government came into effect today. First-time homebuyers will have the option of stretching the amortization period of their mortgage to 30 years. That's an increase of 5 years from what was previously allowed. The move, which is designed to make purchasing a home more affordable for first-time homebuyers, can mean lower monthly payments. Lethbridge mortgage broker Kim Verkervich says those lower payments, however, come at a higher cost in the long run. She says she's not convinced the new rules will bring more people into the market.
I just feel that if you don't need to do it, you probably shouldn't. Situation, it's nice because you're going to maybe pay $200 less per month, say on a $400,000 house. So that way, you know, you're saving an extra $200 in your pocket, kind of, because, you know, you're stretching out the amortization period from 25 to 30 years. But in the long run, over the amortization period of 30 years, you're going to be paying a lot more interest than principal on the house. I don't think it's really going to make any difference to anyone that's trying to buy a home. I mean, if you have to stretch out the amortization period to 30 years, then chances are maybe you're that person that maybe shouldn't really be buying a home either.
Verkervich says by extending a mortgage from 25 to 30 years, homeowners can expect to pay as much as $66,000 more in interest payments. Plus, the new rules only apply to purchases of new homes, which he says aren't affordable for most first-time homebuyers. If you're planning on heading south for the upcoming August long weekend, just a reminder, it is August, which means there are some new rules in place if you plan to take your pooch across the border. BCN's Jeanette Rocher is here now with more information. Jeanette, what are these new rules for dog owners who take their four-legged friends into the United States?
Well, Hal, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's website, starting today, dogs entering or returning to the United States that have been only in dog rabies-free or low-risk countries in the past 6 months must have completed the CDC dog import form. Now, this free form can be found on the Center for Disease Control website. After submitting the form, a receipt will be emailed to the dog owner. The receipt can be printed or shown on your phone to the border guard. Your receipt is valid for 6 months from when it's issued and can be used for multiple entries into the U.S. as long as the dog has not been in a high-risk country in the past 6 months. Forms can be completed on the day of travel or up to 6 months before you travel, and each dog must have its own form. In addition to having the receipt, dogs must appear healthy upon arrival. They must be at least 6 months old at the time of entry or returning to the United States, and dogs must have have a microchip that can be detected with a universal scanner to identify them. These stricter regulations are being enforced mainly to prevent the spread of rabies from countries that are considered higher risk for rabies. However, Canada is considered a low-risk country. You can check out my full story at bridgecitynews.ca or on our YouTube page. Hal?
Thanks so much, Jeanette. Very valuable information indeed. The Lethbridge Food Bank has been blessed recently with an abundance of donations from local potato producers. In fact, the food bank has received around 13,000 pounds of spuds, which is more than they can handle. As a result, they're holding a free Potato Friday event August 2nd between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m. where anyone can stop by for a free box or bag of potatoes. Food Bank Program Lead Emily Bilby says the event is an opportunity to give back to the community.
We just want to share this with our community. We've been very lucky that we've got an abundance of potatoes, as you can see, and we would just hate to waste and throw any of it out. So we want to encourage people to come down and get their potatoes. Sometimes we do get an abundance of produce. We're usually really good at making sure it goes out of the front doors with our clients. When it's in volumes as such as we've got at the moment, we can react. We're going to have volunteers. People are going to be quite obvious. They're going to be in high-vis vests, guiding traffic. We would really like if people could bring their own bags or boxes. If not, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's really helpful if you can bring your own containers. And then we can just guide you in. You can pull up, take whatever you need, and then drive away.
Talking about a lot of spuds there. People are asked to drive up to the east side of the food bank to pick up their potatoes. No donations are required to receive the free spuds, but any donations you might want to make to the food bank are greatly appreciated. The Southern Alberta Ethnic Association is prepared to host Heritage Day at Lethbridge's Galt Gardens on Monday. There's a call for more volunteers in the area to help in various roles during the event, which takes place from noon till 5 p.m. The festivities will include food trucks, live performers, and cultural experience for the whole family to enjoy and learn more about.
It's an open space to understanding how other people do things in their own culture, or like different perspectives of where people have come from, different ways of knowing, different ways of doing, different ways of eating, different ways of performing, and different significant ways of sharing arts and culture. It's a great way to experience that without having to maybe travel somewhere else. But it's also a great way for community to come together to share ways of knowing.
By the way, Heritage Day was created back in 1973 to preserve our nation's natural, architectural, and historical heritage. Hopefully we have some beautiful weather for Heritage Day Monday. Well, it was sunny and hot again today here in Lethbridge, but things might be cooling off as we make our way to the weekend. Full weather details are on deck. Hopefully you've been staying nice and hydrated and wearing lots of sunscreen. It's been sunny and hot lately here in Lethbridge. Jeanette Rocher is now with a full look at the weather picture. Jeanette, as we make our way to the August long weekend, it may not be quite as hot?
Yeah, well, that's true, particularly as we get past the weekend into next week there. We're going to see those temperatures start to cool down quite a little bit. But over the next couple of days, we are still sitting in that heat warning where temperatures are going to be above 29 degrees, so between 29 and 36. And the evening temperatures aren't bringing much relief either, at least for Thursday night and Friday night. We're still in the high teens there and still in the 30s for the daytime highs. Not till Saturday are we dropping to 29, which is still above our average high for this time of year. So Saturday looking at 29 degrees, 27 on Sunday with mainly cloudy skies, back to sunshine on Monday, holiday Monday that is, with a high of 26. And then as we get into the work week again, that's when we're going to see that drastic drop in temperature, 22 for a high on Tuesday. Could see some showers there, a bit of moisture, and then mainly cloudy skies on Wednesday with a high of only 20 degrees. So that's going to be lower than the average high for this time of year, which is 26. Average low 11. 36 was our high temperature on this day. That happened back in 2000, and in 1939 we were sitting at the coldest, which was only 4 degrees. 6:03, that is when the sun rose this morning. Sunset this evening at 9:11, and we're looking at 15 hours and 8 minutes of daylight, 3 minutes less than yesterday. Okay, so sunshine on the west coast tomorrow. Victoria sitting at 25 degrees, more like 20 where the onshore winds blow. 25 as well in Vancouver tomorrow. In Edmonton, high of 26 degrees with mainly sunny skies. Calgary still sitting under that heat event going into the long weekend. 30 for a high there in Calgary tomorrow with mainly sunny skies. As we look to the rest of the prairies, sitting at 32 tomorrow for Saskatoon. Could see some showers there. And then that hot air mass continues to sit over southern Saskatchewan, Regina, hitting 36 degrees tomorrow. Clear skies, 29 in Winnipeg with mainly sunny skies there as well. As we look to the rest of the country here, particularly the central portion, Toronto sitting at 28 tomorrow. Could see some showers and some risk of thunderstorms there. 31 for a high in Ottawa, sitting under a heat event into tomorrow as well. Clear skies. Montreal also seeing quite a bit warmer than average temperatures for this time of year. That's what I'm trying to say. High of 32 degrees there in Montreal. As we get into the Atlantic portion of the country, we're still seeing very high temperatures, but quite a bit more moisture in some of these places. 30 for a high in Fredericton, high of 28 in Halifax. Halifax could see some showers there. Rain also expected in Charlottetown with the risk of thunderstorms. 27 for a high, 25 for the high in St. John's. St. John's could see 2 millimeters of rain tomorrow and a risk of a thunderstorm there. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
Amazon has reported a boost in its quarterly profits. The company, however, says it missed revenue estimates. The Seattle-based tech giant says it earned $13.5 billion in the April through June period. That was higher than the forecast of $10.99 billion. The company posted sales of revenue of $148 billion, which was slightly missing expectations by analysts. Sales for the company's cloud computing unit, Amazon Web Services, saw a 19% jump compared to the same period last year. Canadian fuel retailer and convenience store operator Parkland says hurting consumers in Canada are curtailing their spending habits. The Calgary-based company lowered its earnings forecast this year to $1.9 billion. That is down from the previous forecast of $2 billion. Company officials say it is due to a weakness in consumer demand. In Canada, Parkland's fuel volumes were down 4% year over year in the second quarter, while its food convenience store profits were down 2%. Parkland said one bright spot, however, was the Ontario government's move to allow wine and beer sales in convenience stores. Now here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down 387 points on the day to finish at 22,723. The Dow was down 494 points to 40,347. The S&P 500 was down 75 on the day to 5446. And the Nasdaq was down 405 points to 17,194. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down $1.60 to $76.31 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 7 cents to $1.97 US. Gold was up $28.40 on the day to $24.51.55 US an ounce, and silver was up 24 cents to $29.03 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.56 per bushel. Barley's at $5.79, canola's at $13.85, and corn is at $7.18 per bushel. Live cattle August contract was down $2.33 to $184.80. Feeder cattle August contract was down $4.10 to $253.15, and lean hogs August contract was up 88 cents to $93.15. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 72.10 US. Recapping one of our top stories, Turkish officials have confirmed that Canadian-born U.S. resident Paul Whelan and Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich have been freed in a prisoner security swap between the United States and Russia. They're among 24 people who were released on Thursday. Gershkovich was sentenced to 16 years in prison last month following a secret 3-day trial. He was detained since March of 2023 on charges of spying, while Whelan was serving a 16-year prison sentence for espionage charges that both he and the United States government denied. A number of faith groups are gathering for a religious freedom symposium here in Lethbridge next month. BCN's Jeanette Rocher will have details for us shortly in an interview with one of the group's organizers, Richard Lowe. Listen, when you see news happening in your community, send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. Also, be sure to visit our website anytime to check out a number of stories and interviews.
Canada has always prided itself on being a free nation, including the rights to freedom of religion and freedom of speech. However, at times, these rights seem to be fading more and more. So why is this happening and what can be done about it? Well, today's guest joins us from Lethbridge. Richard Lowe is a lawyer and also a spokesperson for the group Lethbridge Friends of Religious Freedom. Welcome to Bridge City News, Richard. Great to have you on today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Okay, so maybe firstly, tell us a bit about what your organization is all about.
So it's a grassroots organization that we call Lethbridge Friends of Religious Freedom. It's really four of us who are friends and who've known each other for a long time, who have gotten together because of our mutual concern about religious freedom and how it is being eroded and how it's not being valued in our society as much as we would like. And so we got together about 6 or 8 months ago and decided that we were going to try and do something about it. And we organized a symposium that I'm sure we're going to get into that's scheduled for September 21st. But basically on our key organizing group, we have myself and we have another lawyer, David Cavilla, who's very connected to the Catholic community. We have Bill Zwartbull, who's a pastor of the Free Grace Fellowship in Lethbridge, and also Scott Sear, who's a pastor with the King of Kings Fellowship in Lethbridge. So, and we've also had representation from the Muslim community who've come and been a part of our organizational committee as well. So we've tried to get a broad representation from different religious groups.
As well as LDS, I believe, too, right?
Yes, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so we feel like this kind of broad coalition, all of us are concerned about religious freedom and wanting to promote and protect it. And that's led to this group organizing this symposium.
That's so interesting that you have all these different faiths coming together. I think a lot of times when people think religious freedom, they think about their own religion, right? That's not necessarily the case.
No. And I think that's one of the things that the values that's inherent in religious freedom is the ability to condone and respect other people's rights to believe differently than what myself or you might believe. And I think that's a big challenge in our society because it seems like differences in beliefs is a real cause for contention and polarization. And if you really study religious freedom and the experts that we're bringing in who are experts in this area will tell us and teach us that the essence of religious freedom is that respect for other people's right to believe, even if it's different than yours.
We're totally going to get into that as well. But you did mention that you have an event coming up, this symposium, right? It's the Lethbridge Religious Freedom Symposium on Saturday, September 22nd at Southminster United Church. So you have some high-profile guests as well, right?
Yes, it's actually the 21st of September, but it is a Saturday.
Did I not say 21st?
I think you said the 22nd, but that's fine.
I apologize. Saturday, September 21st. Yes, from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m., right?
You got it. You got it. Yeah, we were very fortunate to get three, they are experts in the area of religious freedom. All three of them have written and spoken extensively in North America about religious freedom. Our first is Steve Collis, who's a University of Texas law professor. Then we have Bruce Clemenger, who's the president emeritus of the Evangelical Fellowship of Canada. And we also have Andrew Bennett, who is the program director at Cardis, specifically for religious freedom. And like I say, these three are experts. They're giving of their time to come to Lethbridge and speak about this topic, various aspects of this topic. Our overall theme is, can religious freedom be a force for unity in society? And so that will be what they'll be addressing, is how that can happen. We also have panelists drawn from the local communities. We have Ramona Bighead, who's an Indigenous spiritual leader she's a member of the Blood Tribe and also very connected to the Piikani tribe. We have Elder David Stewart, who's an Area 70 for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We have Dr. Atif Khalil, who's a religion professor at the University of Lethbridge over Islamic studies. We have Daniel Zapula, who's again a pastor for the Ms. City Church here in Lethbridge. We have Father Tumbak, a Catholic father who's also a pastor.
The list just goes on and on here.
It does, and we have 9 of them, and there's several. Diana Sims, who's the executive director of the Martha Retreat Center. So we've got some really wonderful local people who are also coming to be on a panel that will take the topics of these experts and kind of localize them and say how that's relevant to their particular religious experience right here in Lethbridge. So there'll also be an opportunity for a Q&A from the participants. And so we feel like it'll be a great way to talk about this subject and explore it and find out how it's important to us individually, and whether you're a religious person or not. We feel like this theme and the message will resonate even with non-religious people, where they will understand that religious freedom is an important value, even if you're not religious, because of the contributions and the benefit that gives to a free and open society.
Right. I think many people believe religion is one of the main causes of division in our society, but you believe religious freedom can actually be a force of unity. So can you maybe explain that?
100%. And again, I think, like I said a few minutes ago, the essence of religious freedom, when you really examine it, is the ability to respect other people's beliefs and other people's right to express those beliefs, even though they're different than your own. And that's, if that is the value of religious freedom, then that is something that doesn't cause division, and quite the opposite. It will help us to live together in harmony, even when we have divisions. And religion has been used as an excuse to create wars and divisions historically in the world. But if you really look at it, those wars are only excuses to suppress or be intolerant towards other people's beliefs, which is not what religious freedom is all about.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that if freedom of religion is ensured in Canada, that non-religious people benefit from this as well?
100%. And the speakers will address this, and I'm no expert in religious freedom, and I'll put that out there for sure, but I know enough about it that there's been studies and lots of data that will show that countries that promote religious freedom are more tolerant, are more understanding. People are more willing to contribute to community service and charities, and there's lots and lots of benefits to a society for tolerating religious freedom, even if people aren't religious.
Yeah. Okay. So it seems currently in Canada, religion in general is marginalized in the public square. Why do you think that is?
Well, again, I know that Andrew Bennett this is one of the main things that he has written and spoken about, and he will be addressing. But I think it's just the increased secularization that we have in our society, where religion as a whole is becoming less and less popular in our Western civilization. And so more and more people are non-religious. And also the whole concept of moral relativism, where the prevailing philosophy of many is that you do whatever you feel like doing, and that there isn't necessarily a God or a higher power that is giving direction and guidance to our lives. And so I think those two philosophies and influences are really putting a lot of pressure on religious freedom, and governments are becoming more and more willing to take away religious freedom when they feel like it suits their purposes, and that's a real concern.
Okay, now, Richard, you are a lawyer, so you might be the perfect person to ask this. So do you think that when it comes to legal battles over constitutional rights, that the right to freedom of religion generally ends up at the bottom of the pile?
I think that's sometimes true. And again, I think that's a sign of the secularization in our society, and how non-religious people, who are now becoming more and more the majority, don't see the value of religious freedom. And that's exactly what we're trying to address in this symposium. We're trying to help people come to an event that will understand value. This constitutionally enshrined value isn't just for religious people who go to church every Sunday. It's or sometimes it's for everybody, because it improves the society as a whole. When you respect religious freedom, it helps a society be more unified, be more being able to live in peace together, where you have differences in beliefs.
Yeah, you mentioned differences there. So freedom of religion also means the freedom to disagree with one another then, right? So how do we go about
100%.
disagreeing in a
You bet.
respectful and peaceful manner?
Well, let me answer that by giving an example. I think that the key is listening, and I had an experience. Let's see, it was 7 years ago, where I was involved in a group of people who approached the local school board concerned about some of the policies that they were implementing, and the lack of respect that they were showing for religious communities and religious families. And bottom line is, we formed a committee that had representatives of the school board and representatives of this citizens group that sat down to look at this policy. And we just decided we were going to listen to each other, and we were going to find out what were the concerns of those who were proposing these policies. We then expressed our concerns, and we found that through that process of listening to each other, we were able to formulate a policy that respected both. It respected the rights of religious people to maintain those rights. It respected the rights of those who felt and wanted to live otherwise to do that as well. And I think that listening is what's lacking. We're quick to express our views. We're quick to call somebody else out who maybe is living differently or believing differently. But when we sit down and listen and respect, that's where the unifying influence and the peace comes in.
Mm-hmm. And I think those examples are especially true right now with the day and age of social media, right? We're living in these times where there's societal pressure to think alike on both social and moral issues. And then, of course, that leaves very little room for debate and discussion. So if someone disagrees with the majority view, they tend to be labeled as being hateful or intolerant, and they could be shunned. So any thoughts on where this could be headed and what can be done to turn the tide?
Well, again, I think that it's a matter of listening and finding out really what are the views and the concerns of people who believe differently, and finding the common ground, because we're all humans. We're all wanting to live peacefully, and we can differ in our beliefs and our lifestyle choices, and we can still live in harmony and peace one with another. And I think that that's a basic tenet of most religions, and it's certainly something that can help us to respect other people's beliefs and other people's lifestyles, and being able to live in harmony together. And that's the whole point of why we're doing this symposium.
Yeah. What would freedom for all religious beliefs look like, do you think?
Well, again, I think it's tolerance, and understanding and respect, and allowing people to, and obviously there has to be some limitations on that. If my religious beliefs are causing harm to others, or there is built into the Canadian Charter of Rights those protections and limitations, I guess. But generally speaking, it would be people who would respect other people's beliefs and to express those beliefs. Like public officials oftentimes are afraid to express their beliefs that are based in their religion, because they're criticized and they're marginalized. And there's so many examples of that. And I think that's not a good omen for our society. We need to encourage people to pursue their beliefs and to express their beliefs, and then to be able to listen and discuss and understand each other better.
Yeah. Once again, Richard, can you maybe share with our viewers how they can take part in this Lethbridge Religious Freedom Symposium taking place on Saturday, September 21st?
You bet. We have a Facebook group, Lethbridge Friends of Religious Freedom. You can look up our Facebook page. You can search that up, and there's an Eventbrite link in that page that you can go to get tickets. You can go straight to eventbrite.ca and search Lethbridge Religious Freedom Symposium. The event will come up. It's $20 for a ticket. That includes a light lunch, and we're also going to be selling tickets at the door. So Southminster United can seat 950, and we hope to pack the place. Again, these people that are coming are donating their time and their expertise, and if you Google any of their names, you'll find that they are really experts in this area. So anyone who comes, I can promise and guarantee you won't regret it. You will be glad that you came, to increase your understanding of what religious freedom is all about and why it's important.
And once again, that symposium is September 21st, which is a Saturday, 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. at Southminster United Church. Thanks so much for being with us today, Richard. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you. Have a good day.
You too. Richard Lowe is a spokesperson for the Lethbridge Friends of Religious Freedom.
Hollywood often portrays fathers as being a little goofy and sometimes not the sharpest knives in the drawer, which I believe is quite sad considering the powerful role that fathers play in society today. And according to our Heavenly Father, fatherhood is also very important when you read that in the Bible. Now, to discuss this in more detail is Rowan Crown. He's the lead pastor of Amazing Grace Community Church here in Lethbridge. Pastor Rowan Crown, welcome back to Bridge City News.
Thank you for having me, Hal. It's good to be here.
So, Pastor Owen, many would agree that fathers play a very important role in the family dynamic. But sometimes, as dads, we do make mistakes. And those flubs can sometimes leave lasting hurts on our children. How can we really rebuild that relationship?
Yeah, I first want to start off by saying that I do not come here as the number one example of a father. And it's important to know that we are people who make mistakes, and I've failed as a father many times. So I think the first thing is recognizing our weaknesses as a father and how much we need the Lord and the Lord's guidance as we are fathers to our children, and really fathers to others, or examples of fathers to others in our lives.
So as dads, you talked about guidance from our Heavenly Father. How about wisdom as well, that we really rely on God's Word and maybe seek more insight in His Word as a proper way of being a good father?
Yeah, I think, Hal, I think it's a very difficult time in which we live in, where the role of the father, as you said, by community examples or the examples in the world, that fathers are not looked upon as what Scripture would really portray fathers as. And so it's important that we look to God's Word, we look to the wisdom of God and the fear of the Lord in order to help us to walk humbly as fathers and allow His fatherhood in our lives to reflect and build in us that character, so we can be those examples to those around us.
Let's expand on that for just a moment here, Pastor Rowan. What do you see as the role for fathers today?
I think the role of fathers today is to walk in humility, to lead confidently, and to really be those people who listen, who react in wisdom, but also are not afraid to love others and love their kids in a way that is helpful in guidance and so forth. It's easy right now in this day and age, because the role of fathers has diminished in really a fatherless generation, to kind of take the back burner in the lives of our kids and our children. Sometimes there's this push to abdicate some of those leadership responsibilities, but really God calls us as fathers to be leaders, using the personalities and the gifts He's given us to be the leaders and examples to those in our lives, especially our children.
You know, I'm a father myself of two wonderful kids, Matthew and Carissa. They're adults now, obviously, in their 20s, but I remember when they were younger, they were going down a certain path. I've been down that path. It led to destruction. It wasn't a good path. And I'm trying to encourage them and support them and love them, saying, guys, don't go down that path. I've been down that path. It's not a good path to go down. But as a father, sometimes you have to let go and let God and just let them learn, I guess. And that's what's really hard, I found, as a father, as a parent.
Yeah, I'm learning that still, Hal, to be honest, is when to surrender our kids to the Lord, right? We desire for them to grow up in the fear and nurture of the Lord, but there comes a time when we can't control our kids, that we really need to leave them up to the Lord. I've had to do over the last actually year a lot of repenting to God and to my kids for things that I have did or said to them unintentionally, but as they've gotten older, they've said, "Dad, you did this to me," and that hurt me. And so I've had to do a lot of soul searching, a lot of going before the Lord, and actually asking my kids for forgiveness for the ways in which I have treated them in the past, and asking the Lord to help me grow as a father as my kids grow older.
Is there almost a kind of reconciliation that fathers have to have with their children, perhaps?
Oh, ongoing reconciliation. That's what relationships are, is that ongoing reconciliation and so forth. But we also don't need to beat ourselves up, because we, as fathers, often are doing the best we can with what we've been given. And so it's important to remain humble and repentant, but also realize that we are not perfect and we fall short of those expectations, but to quickly remind ourselves that we can go to God for forgiveness, and we can go to our kids and asking them to forgive us too. That's not showing weakness in a sense that we are weak people. That's actually showing a weakness in strength, that we too need the Lord as we father those around us. And therefore, it's actually a strength. And there's, as the Bible says, there's strength and weakness when we display that in a humble reliance upon the Lord.
In my family, fathers traditionally were disciplinarians. Part of our job was to correct. But along with that, really encourage our children and teach them along the way. How successful of a formula do you think that is for today?
Yeah, Hal, I would say this. I would say society and culture have changed a lot over the last 10, 20 years. The way I used to view the role of a father in my life has changed in a lot of ways, and it's changed somewhat for the good, but also there are dangers that we can easily fall into if we don't remember those things. And so, yes, traditionally, the father has been the disciplinarian in the role of the family. Somewhat that has changed, where there's kids who grow up without fathers, they only have a single mom. And so that male authority can somewhat be a struggle for some. And so how do we humbly bring that role back into the life of a family? It's difficult. And so it's a learning stage for many fathers in our generation. How do we display God's goodness, God's grace, but also the love of God through godly love and discipline in the family? It is a very difficult time in which we live in. And so we have to err on the side of caution at times, and be more encouraging, and not demand that we have this authoritative role in the lives of our kids, which has been looked upon now as a very bad thing. How do we show that authority, but also how do we show that with encouragement and humbly as well? That is the challenge for us as fathers today.
Pastor Rowan, many of us have never had the blessing of a father, and somehow I think we all long for our dads to say, son, daughter, I'm so proud of you. You are so amazing. Lifting up your children. How important is that kind of validation for our kids?
Oh, Hal, it is very, very important. For me as a kid, that was so important to have my father's recognition, to have my father's love and verbal affirmation was so important. I set my mission as a young father that I was going to do that. Have I always succeeded? No. But it's so important that as fathers, we are there for our kids, even and especially when they fall and fail and when they mess up. We need to be the first ones there to love and care for them during those difficult times.
And to lift them up, absolutely. So, Pastor Rowan, for fathers who are watching our program right now on Miracle Channel, Bridge City News, and have never actually done that, said, you know what, I'm really proud of you and I love you, they find it a little difficult, what advice would you give them to get started with that?
I think it comes down to searching your own heart before the Lord, right? And really turning to Him and confessing the way in which you have not been there for your children in that way. And it's important because we have God the Father who loves us unconditionally, and so we can go to Him with these things, and then we can really ask the Lord to help us go to our kids, go to our children, make that phone call, admit our wrongdoing and our sin, and then ask others to hold us accountable in that process. I just had a father figure who just died suddenly this week in my life, a mentor of mine. And the one thing about him is that he always challenged me as a father. He always said, how are you seeking the Lord, Rowan? How are you seeking the Lord in front of your wife and your kids? And the memory of that still sticks with me today, is that I need to be that example, that living example to my kids and the other children that are not my kids in my life, that look up to me as a father figure in their life.
You know, our condolences going out to you and your family with you losing your mentor. And let's talk about the importance of mentors as well, especially with maybe children who didn't grow up with a father but have that mentor, and that mentor can be a powerful, influential figure in that young person's life.
Oh, definitely. I would say this. I would say every father, every male who's listening out here, if you don't have mentors or men in your life that you can bond with and talk about the things of the Lord, talk about your struggles, then it's going to be extra. It's going to be extra harder to be the man that God has called you to be, and you need that in your life. You need men challenging you and examples in your life, speaking into your life, calling out your stuff when you need to, when it needs to be called out, and praying for you as you are doing the things that God has called you to do as a husband, as a father, as a worker, wherever you are. It is so, so important. I encourage every male who's listening out there to have some sort of mentor.
You know, one of the most common complaints about fathers seems to be, my dad didn't spend a lot of time with me. He was always at the office, always working, always on the road. So Pastor Rowan, how important is it just to spend some quality time with your kids and really investing in them?
It is so, so important. And you'll fail. And there are times when they will not like you being in their lives, and they will reject your wisdom. They laugh at me all the time. Every time they go out, I say, remember wisdom, remember wisdom. And they now joke about it because they know I'm going to say it all the time. But it's important that we have that constant presence in their life, because that's what God our Father is to us. I'm preaching on Romans 8 this week, and it's a beautiful passage about the fatherhood of God in our lives, that He's our Abba Father, He's our daddy. He's always present with us in the Spirit. And so we can't be always present with them, but we can pray for them, seek the Lord for them, and remind them that we love them in a way that no one else has the opportunity to love them as a father in their lives.
You know, many dads like to put on that real tough exterior, that macho image for their kids. But I wonder if it's more important to actually teach and model to our kids, like you mentioned earlier, to walk humbly, to take responsibility for our actions, and to really apologize when we mess up. Say, you know, son, daughter, my bad, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, it's so, so important. I come from that old school, Hal, where fathers, and I actually had a father that I grew up with until I was 18, and then I moved to the States and lived with my uncle, and then he became another father figure in my life, and he was tough as nails, and he really taught me what it means to and hold me accountable, and so I learned both sides of the coin in understanding that a father can be strong. A father can really be that strong leader in your life, but also a father needs to be humble. I still remember to this day when I made a major mistake, and my uncle, he's big and strong and man, he put the fear of God into you. But when I made that major mistake, he didn't scream at me and yell at me. He walked up to me and put his loving arms around me and cried over me. And I still remember that to this day, that it was so unexpected. And I just wept. I just wept because that's what I needed. I needed a humble person to love me in my mistake. And that's what he did for me that day.
How about thoughts on how we can best honor our fathers in a very meaningful way?
Yeah, that is a great question. I have wrestled with that, being a father, and even in my own struggles, in my own relationship, in understanding how I've responded to my father in the past. So I think it's important for us to be thankful to God, regardless of what our fathers have done to us. Right? That you may be out there and your father may have treated you very poorly in your life, but you can still be thankful for them, right? And you can pray for them. And I think it's important that we honor them by remembering even the things that they did for us that may have been small. But now as a father, those small things, I look back and go, man, they weren't small. They were mighty things. My dad loved every person, a homeless person, an addict. Every time I walked with him in downtown Sydney, Australia, he would stop and talk to the alcoholic, right? I still remember that. And that was passed on to me. And there is not a homeless person that I do not meet, that I do not look in their eyes and say hello. I honor my father because he exemplified that for me growing up as a young man in Sydney, Australia.
Rowan Crown is the lead pastor of Amazing Grace Community Church here in Lethbridge. Pastor Rowan, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Hal, for having me on this very important topic, and the Lord's blessings on you and the program.
Thank you so much, you as well. On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and thanks for watching.